to the Sous Chefs. I am here with my esteemed colleague and best friend and soulmate, Robert Alexander.
Hey y'all, Chef Rob in the house.
And I'm Kimber, and we're here because Robert wanted me to answer some questions for the recent season of our, for a hot minute, it was our favorite show, but I don't know that we can necessarily say that's true anymore, but Westworld. So we're trying to, the challenge here is, can I explain everything that's happened in Westworld in 15 minutes or less? And Robert is going to hold us to account by putting a timer on his phone. So when the timer shows, I'm somehow going to have to answer every question that he has about Westworld and also explain.
I literally only have one question.
Oh, okay. Well, let's have a 15-minute timer and let's begin.
All right, timer starts now.
All right. What is your question?
My one question is, what the fuck happened?
Oh my God, he did it to me again. For fuck's sake. So am I just explaining season 4 or am I explaining all the way?
I've seen seasons 1, 2, and 3 and most of season 4. I didn't really pay attention to the last 2 episodes.
Well, let's talk about, I'll give you the TLD.
Season 1, I know.
Yeah.
Season 2, I know. Is season 3 when they went into the, what's it called? The bliss or whatever it's called?
No, okay. So here we go. Let's just hold up real back. First season was by far the simplest, although it also contained a multitude of things that happened. But basically what happened in season 1 was that there's a series of very fancy futuristic parks where super rich people go and pay $40,000 a day so that they can kill robots and or have sex with them or both. Okay. That's pretty much the whole thing. They get to go and just wild out in these parks. One of these parks was called Westworld. It was a Western themed park. Now, the robots did not know they were robots. They thought they were people. And they were designed to be so realistic that they would act like people, so people really felt like they were killing and or fucking real people.
Okay.
Now, the deeper that you went inside the park, the freakier it got. And that's where all the orgies are happening and all the bloodbaths are happening and massacres and just like hardcore shit.
Okay, so like the outskirts of the park, that's where you would see the kids.
That's like Disney. That's where like, oh, we can go and pet a horse and talk to Dolores while she paints. Or we can choose to give her a can of milk and end up raping her that night because that's how her loop worked. So each of these robots had their specific loops that they were in. They would wake up every day and they had a flow chart. And so if, for example, Dolores is our heroine, she's meant to be like Alice in Wonderland because she's wearing the blue dress and she's blonde and she begins to unwind. Yes, that's why she's styled that way, because she sort of tumbles down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
that's the maze when she starts figuring out and coming to self-realization, because there were 2 guys that started the park, Dr. Ford and our good friend played by Jeffrey Wright, whose name Arnold Weber, whose name became an anagram for another guy also played by Jeffrey Wright, who was not human but was a robot, which we found out later. Okay. One of the main things of this is, who are the secret robots and who are the secret humans? Because sometimes you don't know. So anyway, Dolores, she's one of the oldest hosts. We call them hosts. We don't call them robots or androids or sex bots or fuck bots, even though all of those things are true. Fembot, all of those things are true. Right. They are biological machines. They were originally pretty much plastic and metal, but now they're biological. So they actually are pretty much human body parts with all kinds of brain balls inside that you can download the information into, and there's various copies of them everywhere, in the cradle and or the forge. Anyway, that's season 2 shit. Anywho, so what we didn't know at the time was that the whole reason for the park was not so that people had places to go and fuck robots and or kill robots or both. The purpose of the park was that they would wear these hats. The people would wear a hat. They would choose a white hat or a black hat when they came in. And the hats had a tracking device inside, which would copy all the information of the human guests, many of whom are rich and powerful, like senators or titans of industry, politicians. humans. And they would basically take brain scans and they would basically learn everything they could about you so they could, spoiler alert, someday create a human host hybrid that could be used to control people in the Senate, which just happened this past season when they replaced a whole bunch of politicians. Now that goes, okay, we also didn't mention that these were based on Michael Crichton. I don't know that he actually wrote a book, but I definitely know he wrote the script to the original Westworld movie that starred Yul Brynner as the Man in Black, now played by Ed Harris, who started as a human but became a robot. But in the middle, he was sort of like a human host hybrid. Anyway, it's there were many versions of him. But let's just go back. The Man in Black in the original version was a robot, and he started wilding out and just killing a whole bunch of people. And that was basically the end of that. But then they made a sequel called Future World, in which they were literally trying to create robot replacements for world leaders and titans of industry. And that's basically why now Tessa Thompson, being the badass that she is, she's like one of the big highfalutin executives who was always talking about protecting the IP. The reason that the club, that the park was actually invented was not so that we could create AI that was so great and fuckable and killable that we could just get away with it. It was, can we create a copy of a human that is so lifelike and is basically the same and actually does not know it's a robot, so that we can then program it as a sleeper agent and take over government, which, spoiler alert, happens in season 4. But we didn't know at the time that the purpose of creating the parks was so that, like, ultimately the humans thought they would be able to create robot versions of other humans so that they could take over the world. What ends up happening is the robots win, y'all.
Well, yeah, but you already know that's how I feel about robots.
Well, we believe, I mean, basically, I can just tell you in a couple words, the entirety of season 4 was that Flight of the Conchords song, "The Humans Are Dead." We use poisonous gases and we poison their asses. They didn't use poison, they used flies. It's another thing. We'll get there.
I remember the flies.
Well, in any case, the robots are programmed so that they can't hurt humans, so that they can't actually do damage on humans, but the robots can be harmed and raped and killed, and anything can happen to them. Now, the reason why they needed to suffer, allegedly, it's sort of Zen in a way. It's sort of a Buddhist thing. All life is suffering, and when you realize that life is suffering, you achieve nirvana, and then you can, you achieved enlightenment. Here's the problem. So I still don't know what Robert Ford was about. I don't know why he wanted to invent robots other than, isn't it cool to invent a robot? Whereas Arnold was like, you know what? These robots are so lifelike. I think they should have rights. And I think they should self-actualize. We're against that.
Yes, we are.
We don't need robots self-actualizing, because the first thing they're going to do is go Bender from Futurama and kill all humans. Which, guess what happens in season 4? Anywho, so where are we at? Oh my God. Okay, 7.5 minutes. Okay, shit. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so in any case, the main problem is that Arnold Weber believes that the robots need to be free.
Okay.
And in order for them to be free, he thinks the best thing for them to do is self-actualize so that they start wilding out, and then they kill a lot of actual humans so that the humans will shut down the park. That's not what happened, though. Yeah, they did wild out. Dolores was programmed to do a narrative where she just goes and starts killing everybody. And then she did do that. And she also killed Arnold, because he thought that if she killed him, that would make people stop. But it didn't, though. People thought it was kind of cool, actually. And so, yeah, they did shut down the park for a hot minute, but they didn't stop making these robots, though, because guess what happened? They realized we have all the DNA and all the IP that we got shooted into a satellite. This is what Tessa Thompson's character, Hale, Charlotte Hale, she was there to collect all the DNA and all the information about the people that were coming to the park, because we know what kind of roadie shit they're up to. We know all the crap they're into, so we can blackmail them. So at the end of season 1, Dolores basically has decided she's going to kill all humans. So she goes, and the entirety of season 2 is Dolores is going on a rampage and she's killing everybody. And the humans are trying to escape. And some of the robots are on Dolores' side, and some of the robots are on the human side because they don't know that they're also robots. Ashley Stubbs. Turns out, because we thought that he was a human who was in charge of security, but turns out he was really programmed to make sure that the robots were okay and that they also didn't get off the island, off mainland China, because, and of course China, because they had less rules. Couldn't get away with it in America, but they could get away with it off land of China. Anywho, Ashley Stubbs was secretly a robot. He didn't know. He was trying to protect the robots. So he eventually allies himself with some robots who escape. And one of them is Dolores, and she has a whole bunch of brain balls. We don't have time to go into that, but that's the consciousness of the robots who have self-actualized. That can be copied. Now, this will come into play in the 3rd season because we want to know she escaped with 6 brain balls. She kills Charlotte Hale, creates a copy of that body, puts her brain ball inside Charlotte Hale. She has a purse. Inside the purse is 6 more brain balls. We thought that would be a variety of other people. No, they were all copies of Dolores that she just put in other humans that worked for Delos, the company that owns the parks. And Delos is trying to rebrand after all the massacres that are happening. But they still have the ability to run other parks. Now, there was a park called the Raj, which is about colonial India. That was problematic as fuck. That's where the Man in Black's daughter is having all kinds of sex and fun, sexy times. The Man in Black, he's so fucked up. He doesn't realize who is or is not a robot. He kills his daughter, man. That was fucked up. But he basically drove his wife to suicide. Oh, no. Oh, big twist. The young William guy that we all thought was cool that was hanging out with Charlotte or Dolores while she was trying to self-actualize, turns out he's also the Man in Black. Big twist. And he's the one who'd been raping and killing her for 30-some years. Oh, no. Oh, no. So he doesn't know. He's having an existential crisis. He's one of the major owners of the park. And he doesn't realize that he's driven his wife to suicide and that his daughter is not a robot. He kills her. He breaks down. He comes back as a robot later on. But he's also alive at the same time. There's 2 of them. One's a robot version, one's a him version. The 3rd season of Westworld is fucked up because it doesn't make any sense and it's not enjoyable. And that's where Jesse from Breaking Bad shows up because we don't know why.
Well, I felt that way about that season, but I thought it was just me.
No, see, because like the 2nd season was really about some of the robots deciding that they needed to be free, and some of the robots were like, fuck this shit, we want to go to robot heaven. And there is such a place as robot heaven. It's called the Sublime. The Sublime. And this was a place where Akichita, who is like one of the ghost tribe people, he's out here. He had been self-actualized and never died, because basically every time you died, they could reboot you. He was out here living his best native life. He never died. And so he stayed alive. And he realized that he was a robot. He's like, this is some bullshit. I'm going to save all my people. And so he gets a whole bunch of people. He gets in with Maeve, she originally was played a homesteader with a daughter, but then she got reprogrammed as the Madam of the Mariposa, where she's basically a sex worker. And she thinks that she's become self-actualized, but actually she was programmed by Arnold to escape. But she truly self-actualizes when she realizes, I need to go back for my daughter, even though I know she's not my real daughter and she's a robot. I got to go save her. So she turns around. She's about to leave the park. She goes back into the park so that she can save her daughter. And so she ends up becoming part of this rebellious force to get some of the robots to basically shed their robot bodies and go and get uploaded to robot heaven, which is sort of like the Matrix. And it's sort of like it works in its own time. So like you can live a bajillion lives in human time. That's just a couple days. They could live thousands and thousands of years, which becomes kind of important in season 4, because that's where Bernard goes to try and figure out what's going on. Now, season 3, all you really need to know is there's basically Google takes over the world with something called Rehoboam. It's a really terrible giant ball computer that basically has created algorithms to tell everybody what to do in their lives. And everything is controlled. Your entire life is controlled by these algorithms. I mean, it's not that far off from what's really happening right now, y'all. But in any case, everybody's lives are controlled. And so Dolores and Charlotte Hale, who unfortunately, like, She goes crazy because Dolores's brain ball copy is inside her head. She is Dolores, but she's wearing the body of Charlotte Hale, and she starts having cognitive dissonance and starts identifying as Charlotte. And she goes rogue, and she's like, fuck all this shit. I'm killing all these bitches. So she decides she wants to kill all humans. Dolores came out originally to kill all humans, and she knew she wanted to kill all humans. So she also brought back Bernard, not as a brain ball, but because she had spent so much time with him in Westworld, she created him just from her memory. And she's like, I need you to put me on notice in case I go crazy and try to kill all humans. And he's like, dope, I will do that. And so he fucks off, and he's kind of like not really doing anything. He's working in a vegetarian meat factory. They just like bio make meat. It's not like grown off of a cow or whatever. Okay, we've passed our 15 minutes.
No, we're 20 seconds. Keep going.
Okay, anyway, Bernard tries to stop everybody from killing all the humans, but he can't, and he fails. And ultimately, he succeeds in saving some robots, possibly, who may or may not be in robot heaven, or possibly they're in a...
I mean, did you get to the end of season 4?
I mean, we missed a lot. I mean, there's a lot of issues with this show because it's pretty clear they didn't know what the fuck they were doing the whole time. They claimed like they knew, but you could tell in the middle of season 1 that they had to shut down the show, reboot it, and come back. Because a lot of characters ended up getting kind of unceremoniously killed. Like when we found out that Bernard was a robot of Arnold, created by Robert Ford to bring back his partner. There's some issues. There's just some issues in general because entire season 3 was made post-COVID. So they couldn't do what they wanted to do. They ended up shooting in Singapore, most of it, I guess, because of whatever their COVID rules were. And it just went off the rails.
Yeah, I remember it being weird.
It doesn't really matter. Like, basically, season 4 was a soft reboot, but the whole thing happens where Charlotte Hale has taken over the entire world. They use flies to spread a virus to control all the humans. So now it's flipped. So they have all these cities that are like Westworlds, but it's really so the robots can go and fucking kill all the humans. And the humans don't know because they can get reprogrammed immediately. Dolores, we think Dolores is back. She doesn't know that she's not a human again. But turns out she wasn't running around in the real world anyway. She was living in a virtual reality kind of simulation the whole time. It was just her brain ball was stuck in a floor in a big tower, and they were using these towers to spread a sound that only the humans who were brain controlled could hear that would make them do whatever. But there are some people who couldn't be controlled, like Jesse from Breaking Bad. For some reason, it worked better on kids rather than adults, and so the outliers were hunted down and killed. And that was part of the fun for the robots. Their job would be to go hunt and kill all of the outliers.
These are the humans who can't be controlled.
Correct. Okay. But there's also a secret because Caleb, Jesse's character, Caleb had a little 6-year-old daughter who he trained at 6 or 7 to learn how to shoot guns and to learn how to be a soldier, because why not? And she and her mom ended up creating a rebel force that tried to rescue some of the outliers and live in the desert away from the robots.
And that is the grown woman that Bernard is with.
Right. So there's still multiple. Oh, we forgot to mention there's multiple timelines going on. Half the time, some things are happening in different aspect ratios because that's happening in a simulation, or sometimes it's happening in robot heaven.
I'm gonna be real. I like the idea of the show. I even enjoy a few episodes. I don't see how y'all watched all 4 seasons fully because it's so all over the damn place. Like, facts. You think you figure some shit out, but then it's like they don't want you to figure it out. So they decided to totally fuck that story over. And I'm just like, yeah. Why are people who write shows for HBO acting that way?
Well, number one, it's because it's Jonathan Nolan, who's related to Christopher Nolan, and these guys basically their brand is tell people what you're doing and go wah 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 in the music, and that's basically your whole thing. Like, just think about that movie Tenet that came out. He doesn't even give the main character a name. He's just the protagonist. and the movie is shot forwards and backwards at the same time. It makes zero sense. It was totally unwatchable. I don't care if it was in
I
IMAX.
still haven't finished it.
It was so
And I've been watching it for what, a year?
It's just so boring. So boring. But that's the thing. I think the first season was the best.
It was good.
If you want to see what would happen if humans fuck around and find out what happens when AI reaches it, when you reach the singularity and the robots realize, well, fuck, guess what? We're better than you, we're smarter than you, and you're gonna die. And we can replace you and you wouldn't even know. Now, the issue is when me and Robert were watching the show the first time, I was like, well, the way that they've written this makes me want to give robots rights.
Yeah, I've been against that for.
That's the problem.
Forever.
Once you create a living sentient being, which these things are, the whole season 1 of Westworld is about, can a robot achieve true sentience, achieve true consciousness and self-awareness, not just know that they're a robot, but who they are, other than their programming, and can they evolve beyond that?
And if they manage that, which would be a mistake on the part of humans, obviously they have to have rights.
That's what I'm saying.
But why would we want them to have rights?
We shouldn't be doing this, y'all.
Machines.
We shouldn't be doing it. We already have AI programs making art and winning art competitions. That's making the human artist pretty pissed off. So I agree. We should not be creating. And this is actually, if you really want to read something good about why we shouldn't have robots, please read Dune. Because the reason that they have humans working essentially as computers is because the robots killed all humans. It was called the Butlerian Jihad. And so the AI became so powerful that it turned around and tried to destroy all humanity. So humans barely won that war. And that's why they reverted back to a futuristic but feudalistic kind of approach, because they're like, we can never, like the number one rule of Dune is thou shalt not create a computer in the form of a human mind. That's why you got these mentats. They're human computers. And that's why you have the Bene Gesserit witches who have learned how to control their own DNA and their own biological, like they can control everything in their body down to like a cellular and molecular level. So people have turned inward. It's almost kind of magical, but it's just like the science is limited to what a human can do, because we know what happens when you let the robots become like the humans. The first thing they do is they kill all humans. And that's where we're at the end of Westworld season 4. Charlotte Hale quickly took control of all humans, but then that started driving the robots crazy, because they were like, why are we here? What is our purpose? Is it just to kill all humans? And so the robots started killing themselves.
Oh, shit.
She's robot paradise. We're like, we don't want it. So she decided, we're just going to shut everything the fuck down. But she got thwarted because the Man in Black's robot, after he killed the human version of the Man in Black, who might also have not been 100% human. We're still not sure. He wasn't either. But in any case, the robot version of Man in Black, he decided to use the want towers to make all of the people in the world just fight each other to the death. Yeah. So instead of them being under control, they just went ham and everybody just started going psycho, killing everybody. And like the robots were killing all the humans were killing each other. Everybody was killing literally everybody. And so maybe a few people escaped, but basically at the end, it was stated that all human life is destroyed. All that's left now is possibly some slice of robot heaven, where we're going to figure out what is the next evolution of robot life once they don't have to be bound by a biological body or have to define themselves as copies of humans. Like what is the ultimate evolution? And I think that would be very interesting, except I don't think they're getting renewed.
These people aren't, but also these are not the people for the story.
They really aren't, because they I think the problem with Westworld is it brings up a lot of questions, but it never answers any of them. It just gives you more questions, which you know, when J.J. Abrams is an executive producer on a show, that's what's going to happen. Interesting questions. Do we have a resolution? No. How about another Death Star? You like the first 2 Death Stars? How about one more? Like, that's his whole approach, is just like, it's a puzzle box, but ultimately when you get to the core, they haven't really deeply thought about that.
Yeah.
And the problem is ultimately the last three big stars, they're all people of color. You got Tandy Way Newton and Tessa Thompson and Jeffrey Wright. All these three people, they all got murked on the last episode. And it was the one white lady robot ball. I mean, she was a brain ball, I guess. She didn't have a body. Yeah, she was just a brain ball that went into the robot heaven or whatever. Basically, what ended up happening was Charlotte's last act was to take the brain ball and to put it into the robot heaven so that Dolores could decide what would be the way to, I guess, bring all the robot consciousnesses that are left in robot heaven to their fullest conclusion. But basically she ended up being like, let's go back to Westworld and get everybody through the maze that way again. Like, come on, y'all. So I honestly don't, I think they kind of screwed the pooch. I don't think they ever managed to come through and answer any of the questions about, should we be doing this? They never answered the question about, should we be doing this? Because ultimately I guess you could say they did answer by default because all the humans are dead.
Well, my answer has always been no. I mean, here's my thing. Keep them machines. Don't make them people. We've already made pets people, which I'm not against. I love my doggy, but I don't want my robot vacuum to be a person. I don't want my computer to be a people. Like, I just want to keep my phone and tech as tech. I don't want it to have rights. I don't want it thinking, because you know where I'm going if that happens.
Well, you're going to a cave.
Absolutely.
And you're staying in that cave.
Yes.
And you're going 100% off the grid.
Yes.
Like the outliers, who ended up dying anyway because apparently some robot got to him probably.
But you know what? I'm not looking up to no other people. It's just gonna be me.
Fair enough. I mean, I wouldn't even take Trixie because he'll give you away very quickly.
He barks too much. I love him, but I'm gonna leave him with my family. He probably would run away.
Well, I apologize. I wasn't able. I mean, I knew it was going to be somewhat challenging to explain the entirety.
I think that you did a really good job. I'm not gonna lie. I think you did a really good job. I think that, because what I thought you were gonna do, because we watched season 1 together, I thought you would be like, okay, you remember season 1 and then go from there. That's what I thought you could do. But you still didn't make it last an hour. And for us, that is a feat.
That's a fact. We could talk about Westworld all day, but y'all, I just don't think that they're going to HBO Max just got taken over by Discovery and they're killing everything. They're destroying I don't see this getting another season. I really don't. And I don't care if it does, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel like if you want to see a really good show, watch the first season and pretend that that's where it ends.
And remember, that's kind of what I did.
And I hope that, and I feel like it's a really good, the acting is stellar. Ramin Djawadi, who does first of all, if you want to jam, if you love classical music, 90s songs in a ragtime piano, then please listen to all 4 seasons because he does some badass shit. That man is one of the best composers for TV. He also did Game of Thrones, so he knows his shit. He's also doing the music for the new Hot D show, which I can't believe that's the acronym for House of the Dragon. That's probably why Miguel Sapochnik was like, I'm out, y'all. I can't be working for Hot D. So, but no.
I don't like that one.
Ramin Djawadi, though, one of the best composers working in film and television today, and you can get all of his soundtracks on Apple or wherever you listen to music.
This is not sponsored, people. So
please
know that this is just her love of this.
I can't tell you how much document review I listened to the first 2 seasons, because second season was even better. The music was even better. Like he had like Wu-Tang Clan that was done in a Japanese style, like because they get to Shogun World. And so they were doing like rap songs, but in like Shogun style. Just that was dope. That was so amazing. There's like some Amy Winehouse songs in like a ragtimey piano. But he's an amazing musician. I highly recommend that. The acting, fantastic. Jeffrey Wright should have gotten every kind of an award for the amount of different characters that he played. Because he thought he was human for the ball. He played multiple characters. One was human. But one thought he was human and then realized he wasn't human and had an existential crisis because he walked into a room and found 6 copies of himself. And he was like, well, that's some bullshit. They could have given me better abs, but whatever, I guess. And they made him kill his girlfriend. That's fucked up.
Yeah, that is.
So, I mean, I think if you have more questions about Westworld that you would like me to answer, please put them in the comments because I won't read them.
Somebody might read them, but we won't guarantee it'll be us.
But thank you for joining us for this late ass update. We really planned to do it sooner.
But we are lawyers and we've been lawyering our asses
We
off.
have trial today and we have trial Tuesday. And we also just have, you know, a lot of food we want to eat, which, I mean, all right, we do plan to make that flaming hot Fritos ice cream. I still have all the ingredients. Maybe we can do that on Sunday when we have our Labor Day cookout.
Maybe.
Probably not. But
I mean, once we start eating and chilling, are we gonna make ice cream? Let's be real.
This winter would be a perfect time because what else are we doing, right?
We're gonna be in the house, it's fine.
Well, it's gonna happen, y'all. I know we promised to make that brioche that we didn't make. I'm not gonna make it. But I will tell you this. I do have all of the powders and colorants and flavorings to make the flaming hot Cheeto powder, or that I will then put on in the ice cream. And I still have a bag of flaming hot Fritos that has been very hard not to eat. But also, just hot tip, if you want to make a flaming hot cheese sandwich, crush them up, put them on the outside of the bread. It's fantastic. Let me know how you like it because I fucked one up the other day and it was great. It also works with flavor blasted goldfish crackers.
Y'all, we are the sous chefs. I'm always Chef Rob.
And I'm Chef Kimber, and we will see you next time on The Sous Chefs.